the one, the only, Ben Sion. Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today we're doing Sotah, Daf It, number 19. An amazing share for you today. We'll start from the bottom. Yuchanim and Beis. About 10 lines from the bottom. Tana Rabbanan is the last word of the line. Tana Rabbanan. Zos Torahs haknos, Malamish Aisha Shosa Vashona. Alright, we talk about a Sotah. She can go through the whole procedure of being a Sotah. Could it happen twice? With the same husband, with the same adulterer? Assuming she's innocent, obviously. So, according to Tanakama, Zos Torahs haknos. Knos is plural. Torahs haknos. It happened more than once. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Zos. No, you have to die for the word Zos. Zos is singular. Sheina Yisha Shosa Vashona. He argues. She doesn't repeat it. She can be fed the May Sotah once, but not twice. I'm a Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Sorry. I'm a Rabbi Yehuda. Ma'aseh v'hei levanenu chunya chover shichin. Sheisha Shosa Vashona. The chunya chover shichin. He used to dig pits. He used to dig holes. He was a contractor. He said there was an edus, there was a testimony that she would repeat it. V'kibalnu do so. We accepted as edus only in one case. B'shnei anoshim. Two different husbands, right? She's married to two different husbands. We'll talk about two different adulterers or one adulterer. Aval lo b'ish echad, but not with one husband. V'chama, remember, third opinion, any issue shows to v'shon ben b'ish echad ben b'shnei anoshim. Never happens. Rabbi Yehuda admits partially it could possibly happen. According to the Chamim, never happens. Whether there's one husband, two husbands, she never repeats. If she was given the May Sotah to drink once and she was proven innocent, she never drinks again, even if the husband would warn her. And she would be Kamnistara, she would be secluded, she still would not drink again. Three different opinions. We're going to explain them now in a second. Tanakama nami haksiv zos. Tanakama, the first opinion, it says zos is just singular. How could she drink again? Rabbana basrai nami haksiv toras. According to the third opinion, it says toras haknos, which is plural. So how could it be that she could never drink again? I'm a Rava. All three opinions agree that if it's one man and one adulterer, one husband and one adulterer, she can't drink again. He can't warn her against the same man. The same husband can't warn her against the same man. She was proven innocent one. We don't assume she'll be guilty again. She doesn't drink a second time. It doesn't drink again. Zos, because it says Zos. Everyone has to account for the word. At the top of your Tem and Aleph, the word Zos. If we're talking about two different husbands and two different adulterers, everyone would agree, even the Chamim, the last opinion, would agree that she would, because a new husband is a new adulterer, so there's a possibility that she is guilty. The Chsiv Toras, and that's implied Toras Haknos, plural. In two different cases, let's say it's the same husband, but he warned her for a different adulterer. She was proven innocent on the first one, or the second one. Or two different husbands, and it's the same adulterer, right? Maybe she cheated on this husband. Tanakama Savar, Tanakama, the first opinion holds Toras. The word Toras Haknos. The Rabuye Kulu to include, she could always possibly drink a second time. However, Zos, Lemute Ishach, the one time when she doesn't drink again, if it's the same husband and the same adulterer, or possible adulterer. Rabbanan Basrai Savri, the last opinion, Zos, Lemute Kulu. Zos comes to exclude everything. She never drinks again. Toras, but Toras Knos, which is plural, that comes to include one case, Rabuye Shtei Nashim Shtei Bolin. Chamim agree in that case to a second husband and two adulterers, she would drink again. There's a possibility she's guilty. Rabbi Yehuda, what is Rabbi Yehuda? Who's in the middle? Zos lemute tarti, Toras the Rabos tarti. Zos comes to exclude two cases, and Toras haknos plural comes to include two cases. Zos lemute tarti isha chadabolachad. Like we said, right? If it's one husband and one adulterer, again, she doesn't drink again. Isha chadu shnei bolin. But it also comes to exclude, if it's one husband and a second possible adulterer, she's not drinking again. Toras, the Rabuya comes to include she would drink again. Tarti, Shnei Anashim Bo'al Echad, if it's two different husbands, even if it's the same adulterer. Shnei Anashim and Shnei Bo'al, and certainly Kol Shekei, in a case where two different husbands and two different adulterers, in that case she would drink. Those are the three opinions. Maybe that is the completion the conclusion of the second parak of Sotah. Let's jump down to the third parak. I know till es minchasa. We left off talking about bringing this korban mincha. He would take the korban mincha. We told kfifa mitzvahs. We know originally it was put in this wicker basket made out of Egyptian bast type of tree, which was very heavy, and she had to carry it around. She would admit, after she had it in her hand for a while, she would take the flour and put it into a klisharis, a kadosh, a holy vessel, a Beis HaMikdash. Notice now yada. They have to do this before the tnufa. So she would put it in her hands, the woman's hands. The kohen would put his hands conveniently underneath her hands, thereby touching her hands. How could he do that? Shomer Negia. How could it be? A kohen, one of these lustful kohanim. We talked about earlier in the Sotah might not get the right impression if they saw the woman naked. It's machlokas earlier on. Most have been Racham says you're allowed to see her naked, but this is a different problem. How are you allowed to touch her hands? Tosfos addresses this issue, and I will discuss that in Iyun Ben Zion. Minifa, and they wave it together. Hinif, they wave it in 4 directions. Hinif v'higish, kametz v'hiktir. So they wave. Then the woman actually brings the korban mincha close to the base, and she touches the kli against the mizbeach. Kamat, then you take the 3 fingers full, and you take that and you burn it on mizbeach. V'ashar nechal kohanim. The rest of the korban mincha is eaten to the kohanim. Hayamashke v'achach makar. First, she would drink the bitter waters, and then they would bring the kometz. They would bring the korban mincha on the mizbeach. That's the Tanakama's opinion. Reb Shimon argues, makar es minchasa v'achach mashke. Reb Shimon says no. First, they would bring the korban mincha, and then she would drink the water. Shenemar va'achar yashke es ha'isha es hamayim. We'll see it. We'll discuss these psukim. There's actually 3 different psukim that mention drinking the water. It's pasuk chav dalet, chav vav, and chav zayin. So he's really quoting pasuk chav vav over here. First in pasuk chav it talks about 25. It talks about bringing the korban mincha, and then the next pasuk after drinking the korban mincha, then she drinks the water. The kohen makes her drink the water. Im hishke v'achar hikriv es minchas hakshera. If she admits though, but the evet, if it happened out of order, right? First she drank the water, and then the korban mincha was brought. That's kshera. We assume it's a valid test to see whether she's guilty or not. The Gemara says, "Amar lei Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yosha Dedare." That is Rabbi Yosha, who was in his generation. It's not talking about the famous Rabbi Yosha elsewhere, who's a Tana. Here it's an Amora. Lo teisiv akara. Don't sit down on your feet. Adam farshat alaham milchas until you explain the following thing. Minayin lemincha sotah shetuna tnufa. How do you know mincha sotah? It doesn't say it really clearly in the Torah that it needs waving. So the Gemara says b'nola. What kind of question? V'hinif ksiv. It says v'hinif. It says on the pasuk that you wave the korban mincha sotah. So really, he meant to ask a bailam minal. How do you know that the woman herself takes part in the waving? It only says the kohen's wave it. How do you know the woman herself puts her hands under the basket, under the klisharis, and then the kohen, his hands underneath hers? Right? We know the kohen is involved in the waving. How about the woman? Ask yad yad mishlam. We learn gzera shav yad yad from korban shlamim. Ksiv hacha v'laka kohen miyada isha. The kohen takes it from the hands of the woman. Ksiv hasam yadav tiviena. It says when the korban shlamim yadav tiviena, which is a reference to the bailam. The bailam is supposed to wave it. The owner of the korban shlamim waved the korban shlamim. Makan, just like here, it's talking about a kohen. After Halan kohen, therefore we learn about korban shlamim. Also, not only the bailam, the owner of the korban shlamim, but also the kohen waves together with him. Malahalan bailam, and just like over there, Yadav Tiviena is talking about the bailam. Afkan bailam. Here also we learned that by the Sotah, the woman herself takes part in the waving. Haketa. If both by shlamim, both by the korban sotah, the mincha sotah, the kohen places his hands underneath the bailam, in this case it's a woman, and they wave together. So that's the order. And the Mishnah says he would give her to drink, and then they would bring the korban mincha. The Tanakama says first he would give her to drink, and then he would bring the korban mincha. So the Gemara notes a discrepancy in the Mishnah. The Mishnah seems to say not that. Ha'ikruva. If you look 2 lines before that in the Mishnah, right? The Tanakama says Yamashka Makriv es minchasa. First you give her a drink, and then bring the korban mincha. However, if you look the line before that in the Mishnah, it says Menifa Henif v'higish kamatz v'hiktir. Right? It sounds like first they bring the korban mincha, and then they give her the water drink. Hachay kamar. So this is what the Mishnah meant to say there. Menachos. The regular say there for a korban mincha. Keta Hanif Vehigish Kamas Vehikter Ashar Nechel Kohanim. That's not a regular Korban Mincha. We're not talking about a Sotah. That's the order. Uvashka Gufa Pligi. However, when she drinks the water, which is an additional feature by a Sotah, when that happens, that's a machlokas. Reb Shimon Rabbanan, the Rabbanan Sabri Mashka Varchach Makriv. Right? You have to insert the hashka. She gets fed the mei Sotah before you were makriv the komets on the mizbeach. Reb Shimon Savar Makriv es minchasa Varchach Mashka. And he says, no, first what you do is you bring the korban mincha, and then you give her the drink. Again, quoting Pasuk Chavav, we'll talk about this in a second. Therefore, after the korban mincha is brought, then you do the hashka. Then she drinks the water. Shimon admits that for the Evid, if you did it in the opposite way, it's kshera. Top of Yud Teran Beis. Hanarabanan, v'hishke. It says v'hishke. This is Pasuk Chav Daled. I'll just redo the psukim very quickly in English, so you get a clear. Verse 24 says, and he shall give the woman to drink the bitter water that cause curse. So it says, he gives her a drink. Pasuk 25 says, the Kohen shall take the mincha of jealousies from the hand of the woman. He shall wave the mincha before Hashem and shall bring it close to the altar. So there's the waving and ostensibly the bringing of the korban mincha. And verse 26, the Kohen shall scoop from the mincha, remember, and shall burn on the altar. Actually, verse 26 says he burns on the mizbeach. And afterwards, you give the woman water to drink. That's on the Reb Shimon. Right, first you bring the korban mincha, the first half of verse 26, and then the end he gives her a drink. Verse 27, he shall give her the water to drink. ... So again, it mentions that he gives her the water to drink 3 times. So we're going to explain the usage 3 times in the Torah. How do you explain it? To explain the machlokes Tanakam Reb Shimon. V'hishke, right? The first time, verse 24. Matam lo nemar v'hishke. It says later on, Pasuk Chav Zayin 27, Hishke. Shem Nimcha Megillah. Why does it say Hishke another time? It says another time, Shem Nimcha Megillah Omeres Eini Shosem Aradasam Ashkenos Bal Korcha Diva Rabbi Akiva. To teach you, why does it say another 3 times as to give her the drink? That the extra time, one of the extra times it says V'hishke. Normally it means the first explanation of V'hishke is you give her the drink. The reason I repeat it twice is to tell you that if you already erased the Megillah with a Shem Hashem into the water, now Hashem's name Shem Hashem is erased, you force her to drink. Right? If you said I don't want to drink, and earlier she says I don't want to drink before anything happens, we don't give her the water. She's asura to her husband. They have to get divorced. She loses her ksuva. She's basically admitting that she committed adultery. But if the Megillah was already erased, we force her, according to Rabbi Akiva. Rav Shimon Omer, v'achar yashke. V'achar yashke. This is Pasuk Chavav 26. What does Rav Shimon learn from that? Matam l'akbar ne'amar v'hishke. It says in Pasuk Chav Dal v'hishke. Alo l'achar kol ma'asim kulan amur l'mala. It's talking about after everything that happened. Magid gimel dvarim ma'akvin ba. Right, according to Reb Shimon, really, what happens first is you bring the korban mincha, and then you give her the drink. So again, why does it say hashka 3 times? To tell you that 3 things are ma'akiv. Ad shelo karav akometz. Right? Meaning 3 things have to be done before the hashka. First of all, you have to bring the korban mincha. Ad shelo nimcha megillah. Right? You have to make sure that you don't give her the drink until the Shem Hashem is erased, the parchment is erased in the water. Ad shelo tekabel aleh shvua. You make her to take a shvua, that she's accepting the curses upon herself before she drinks. Ad shelo karav akometz. Right? So the first thing that first you have to bring the korban Rav Shimon l'tamei. Damar makriv es minchasa. V'achar mashke. That's what the Mishnah Rav Shimon said. It's explicitly. First you bring the korban mincha, and then you give her the drink. Ad shelo nimcha megillah. So the second thing that he said is ma'akiv. Right? That the megillah has to be erased. Al my mashkelah. Right? If he didn't put the parchment into the water to erase it, so what is he giving her? It's an essential part of the mei Sotah. You have to put the parchment in. Meaning, let's say you put it in the water, and it didn't erase completely. You can still see the outlines of the Shem Hashem, or the words in the parchment. That's the second v'hishka, to make sure that you have to go put it back again and make sure it's completely not visible, the words. The third thing that needs to be, she needs to take a shvua, right? That implies, unless she takes a shvua, she can't drink. So the Gemara wonders about this. You can't even write the Megillah Sotah, right? You have to write the Megillah Sotah before you put it in the water until you take a shvua. Amar Rava, we learned earlier, Megillah Sotah shekasva kodesh gabel shvua. Before she takes the shvua, you have to take a shvua before you even write the parsha. Lo asav lo klum. So the Gemara answers, this third thing, k'dei naspa. This third thing, it's obviously, right? She can't drink the mei sotah until she takes the shvua. But even more so is that you can't even write the parsha sotah before she takes the shvua. But k'dei naspa, this was included among the other ones, even though it's not, right? It's obvious. What are they arguing about, Rav Shimon or the Rabbanan? Do you do the hashka first, or do you do the kar mincha first? Tell us a cry. There's 3 psukim, like I mentioned before. V'hishke kama v'achar yashke v'hishke basra. Right? Pasuk of dal, pasuk of vav, pasuk of zayin. Rabbanan hold v'hishke kama legufo. Right? First pasuk of dal says you give her the water to drink. Shemashke v'achach makar is mishchasa. And pasuk chav hey and chavav, it talks about bringing the kar mincha. The beginning of pasuk chavav says you bring the kar mincha. The achar yashke, the end of pasuk chavav, mibayle shorishumo nikar. Right? To tell you to make sure that you only give her to drink once the parsha sotah is completely erased. If it's erased partially, right, then only after you have to erase it completely. That's what it's telling. Even if you have to erase it completely before you give her the water to drink. Hishka basra, why does it say a third time? The third time it says hishka, that even if once it's erased completely, you force her to drink, even if she says, I don't want to drink at that point. Reb Shimon Savar, what does Reb Shimon do with these 3 psukim? Savar achar yashke legufo. Right, pasuk chavav is the main pasuk, and the pasuk chavav starts off saying first you bring the kar mincha on the mizbeach, and then you give her the water. So therefore, the give her the water is always after the kar mincha. Legufo shemakar mitzchatzcha v'achar gach mashke v'hishke kama pasuk of dalid. Right, it says before actually kar mincha. What do you do with that? Shem hishke v'achar hekar v'esminchasak cheira. That's to tell you b'di'evid, right? It's interesting. It starts, the Torah tells you b'di'evid. B'di'evid, if you gave her to drink first and then brought the kar mincha, it's ksheira b'di'evid. Hashaka basra, shem nimcha, megillah amar, yishosem, aranasa, mashkal, valkarcha. He agrees with the third thing. The third hishka is to tell you that you force her to do it once the parchment is erased in the water. Why don't they agree with Rabbi Shimon? B'di'evid lo pasach kra. Makes sense to the Rabbanan say, right? The Torah wouldn't start off telling you, right, what happens with the Evid? The Evid, if you gave her to drink first, then it's valid. No, it tells you what l'chadchila. It starts off first you give her to drink, and then you bring the kar mincha. The Savar Rabbi Akiva, so the Gemara says, focuses on this halakha about forcing her to drink. Does Rabbi Akiva hold mashkin asab al karcha? We learned in the beginning of the daf, right? Rabbi Akiva says the Hishka teaches that once you force her to drink. Tanya, we have different brayso. You don't mer kalbul shel barzal matil self pia. Right, once they know they're going to administer, they give her the shvua, they write the parchment, and they put it in the water. They put a metal, basically like a metal rod, a circular, a half-circle metal thing, basically to hold her mouth open. Matilin of iron, matilin of piyashim, nimcha megillah. Why was the purpose of doing that? Because if they already erased the parchment into the water, but Amrani Shosa, and then at that point she says, no, I don't want to drink. To hold her mouth open, we force her to drink. The whole point of Hashaka Sotah is found out whether she's guilty. If she admits, she says, I'm not going to drink, that's basically equivalent to admitting. And therefore, you don't have to make her drink anymore. She admitted already. Just like she said Tmeani, and she's asura to her husband, and they have to get divorced, and she loses her ksuva. Ella, ad shalo, karav hakom is called lachzer, but mishkarav hakom is any achso lachzer. Rabbi Akiva, though, ends off with a little cryptic statement over here. If the komates, the korban mincha was brought, right, was not brought yet, she could actually retract. However, once the komates is brought, any yachal lasarbo, and presumably we mashka hosal bal karach, we make her drink. So the Gemara originally first asked the question before you ask Rabbi Akiva. The statement of Rabbi Akiva is cryptic itself. Right, once the kometz is brought in the mizbeach, she can't retract. She has to drink. We force her. I didn't just say that if she refuses, it's tantamount to admitting. Lo kasha hadika hadra ba machmas resisa hadika hadra ba machmas briusa. It depends why she's retracting. She wanted to drink the mei sotah. She insisted she was not guilty. So if she's very afraid, we see her, she's agitated, shaking, she has anxiety over here. So it could be she's really guilty over there. She's really guilty. She's really innocent. She's really innocent. She's just very afraid because she thinks even if I drink the mei sotah and I'm innocent, it'll still kill me. So therefore, we make her drink. However, if we see that she's mentally sound over here, she's mentally sound, and she doesn't want to drink, we assume it's tantamount to admitting. This is what means that if she's sound, she doesn't have to drink. We know she admitted. Before the komitz is written, because normally the Megillah is not, right? First you bring the korban, and then you erase the Megillah into the water, right? According at least to Rabbi Shimon, at least. First you bring the korban mincha, and then you do the hashaka. And even if they did erase the Megillah, they weren't supposed to do that. They're supposed to wait till after the mincha was brought. Kohanim, Gedin Avid Kohanim, the Mati Hashriba. The Kohanim did the wrong thing. She can go back. Mishakar Komitz, the Gedin Avid Kohanim, the Maki, right? They brought the komitz, and then they erased the Shem Hashem into the water. Lo Mati Hashriba. She can't go back, right? And she might be actually innocent, so we force her to take the water. Let's do the top of Chafam and Aleph. Kash, to finish the sukkah. Kash the Rabbi Akiva. It's a question, Rabbi Akiva. Hasam Amar. So we answered in the last price how you resolve Rabbi Akiva. But we have another question, Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva seems to say over here that it depends whether the komitz was brought or not. And before, it depends whether, well, let's see, Hasam Amar Mechika Ma'akva. V'hacha Amar komitz Ma'akiv. Before he said, at the beginning of Yoten Amid Beis, right, when he called the Hishka, tells you that we do it Bal Korcha, you do it against her will. It depends whether the Shem Hashem, the parchment, was erased into the water or not. Here he says it depends whether the komitz was brought in his bath. Where it says Trei Tanai V'Aliba de Rabbi Akiva. Two Tanaim, opinion of Rabbi Akiva, different opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Basically, whether he holds like Rabbi Shimon or the Rabbana, right? Because it basically depends which one comes first. Is the hashaka comes first? When you give her the water, that's when you erase the Shem Hashem. So the first price we said is totally in the mechika, right? And that basically holds like Reb Shimon. Here, when it says the komitz is ma'akev, that's basically like the Rabbanan, and the last thing is the komitz before she drinks. Ibailu Amra Eini Shosa Machmas Briusa. She says, I'm not going to drink, according to Rabbi Akiva, right? And she's mentally sound. We know it's basically she admitted she's guilty. V'chazra Amra Shosa, and then she retracts and says, you know what? I'll drink it. Mao. Kevan Amra Ni Shosa Tmeani Kamra. Since like she's out of soundness, right? Her mind was coherent. She was not trembling. So we could assume that she admitted. It's like she admitted Tmeani. We came on the Aksing Nafesh V'Tumah Matzah Hadraba. It's a concept of Shavise Nafshe Chaticha D'Yisrael. When a woman says she's Tmeani, we believe her. She believes herself, and she can't be married to him anymore. She has to get divorced, and she doesn't get a ksuva. Maybe what we thought that she was mentally sound, but the fact now she says, I will drink, it shows that originally when she said that I'm not going to drink, I'm tmeani basically, is that she was just afraid. And maybe she's really innocent. Teku, the Gemara doesn't answer the question, we're not sure. Amar Avu the Shmuel Sarah Shithin Marlo Tochamai. My time on Akra Mea Marim Shemorim Kvar. Besides putting the dirt in the water, besides putting the parchment in the water, Shmuel Avu the Shmuel adds that she also had to put something bitter in the water. You take some David Campari, you put it in the water. Because it says in the Torah, Mea Marim, it has to be something that is already bitter when she drinks it. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Eon Ben Sion, where I discuss a topic that interests me a little bit. Why is it that the Kohen, a male Kohen, there's no female Kohen, a male Kohen is allowed to put his hands directly underneath the woman's hands? Otherwise, it's a chatzitz. They can't put something interposing between their hands. He's touching her hands. How could this be allowed? Isn't Shomer Negia Allah Chamido Raisa? Stay tuned. Eon Ben Sion coming up next.